Greetings, my name is Theo Roach. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I bring you greetings from my clinical practice, Oasis Clinical Care Management. Definitely, if you're here for the first time, I'd like to welcome you. If you're here on a repeated basis, I definitely like to welcome you back. Certainly, if there's some information you would like to talk about specifically, please contact me on my social media channels. Give me a call so we can talk online. Definitely, if you're a new person here, you definitely want to hit the subscribe button along with the bell to be notified of when different information is being released. Today's topic, though, well, before we dive into that, let me just kind of, for you newbies, let me give you a concept about kind of, the nature of this channel. Basically, here we talk about a lot of clinical information as relates to mental health in general, and also sports psychology. I'm a former athlete. I spent a lot of time in that area, so studying different forms of sports psychology. So as a result, you'll hear a lot of information about that. One thing I want to share with you today, though, we're going to talk a little bit about motivation. And so my thing to my athletes that I work with, and also the message I send to you guys is, will you be ready when the lights come on? Because they're coming back on. Right now we're in a situation, obviously, that's very unprecedented. And so, we're being quarantined, we're being limited, very limited in terms of what we can and cannot do. But my message to my athletes is that, will you be ready when the lights come back on? So that kind of segs way into our topic of discussion today, which is about motivation. And because this subject matter is so rich in information, I will break this up into different segments as we talk about motivating factors and different things like that. Because there's a lot of information I feel like you as a parent, coach, need to be aware of in terms of motivating your athletes. So definitely, if you hear any information you would like more information about, would like for me to expand more in one particular area, definitely feel free to reach out to me on my social media channels. Again, today I want to welcome you guys to Oasis Clinical Corner. And today's topic, we're going to talk about it. We're going to approach this situation from a sports psychology perspective. And that topic that we'll discuss is motivation. And we'll define motivation. What do that really mean from a clinical standpoint? What do they mean from a athletic side of things? So we'll definitely talk about that. And we'll probably end our discussion talking about like the 3 different characteristics of motivation. And so, definitely we'll have some discussion about that as well. Talk about what that looked like. But again, I made some note, and so I refer to some documentation, my notes throughout our discussion. But again, if you have individual questions, please do not hesitate to be in contact with me. Again, today's topic is on motivation, and so I guess we need to spend some time talking about motivation and defining that, because that can be very misleading, very understood concept. And oftentimes we make the assumption that we know what motivation is and what motivates the athlete. And, definitely I think we need to spend some time talking about that because it could be very detrimental if we operate on the assumption instead of the real definition of motivation, and also have a deeper understanding of motivation, because everybody's personality is different. What motivates one player is very different in terms of what motivates another player. So we need to be very clear about that. Um, so again, I'm gonna spend some time talking about motivation, but let's dive into it in terms of from a clinical perspective, what things look like, what the concept of motivation looks like. When I look at the clinical definition, it definitely refers to the direction and the intensity in terms of which a athlete goes into in terms of what motivates them to be a part of that particular situation. So we're looking at direction, two keys: direction and intensity, in terms of what attracts them towards going towards whatever situation they're looking to be a part of. So that's really the clinical definition, if you will, of motivation. However, there's several different factors, there's several different characteristics to bear in mind as we look at motivation. But on the surface level, that is pretty much what it sums up, what it all sums up to be in terms of the clinical definition of motivation. Again, we talk about the intensity and the direction of one's effort towards that particular activity or towards that particular situation they're looking to be a part of. So, from a definition standpoint, that's the Reader's Digest version. I'm sure you can probably find some other different things, but by and large, we're looking at two things: the intensity of the situation in which they're looking to be a part of, and the direction. Obviously, it's pretty clear. It's pretty important to have direction from a motivating standpoint, a motivational standpoint. If you don't have direction, that's the reason why we create like a treatment plan, so we can have a clear direction in terms of what are our goals, what are we shooting for, what will we hope be different. And in fact, that's one of the main things I talk with my athletes about: what will be different in terms of, what are your goals? What are you looking to achieve? What do you hope to get out of this situation? What would you like to be different within 6 to 8 months, or whatever the case may be? Again, direction of effort is critically important. Prime example, the intensity is also another big one as we look at motivation. And oftentimes, I see athletes who really don't really express a lot of emotion in general. I'm not saying you have to, as they approach their particular sport of choice, whether it be whatever sport that may be. My son actually is that way. He don't really express a lot of emotion one way or the other outwardly. Internally, that's different. But outwardly, he doesn't express a lot. So, and it's not just unique to him. That applies to a lot of different athletes like that. I was a combination of both. I wouldn't really express I would and then I wouldn't. So, but that's neither here nor there. But, you have to be very careful, because sometimes people misperceive that as motivation from a motivation standpoint. They misperceive that, coaches primarily misperceive that as if the athlete is not really interested and don't really want to be involved, or don't really show a lot of interest and want to be a part of the process, or they don't want it bad enough. I heard that a lot, and that is so misunderstood, I guess I would say. That's something coaches and parents need to be aware of. You definitely don't want to make those mistakes by misperceiving motivation. because sometimes the intensity may be internally, not from an outwardly perspective. And so the damage we can do with that is we can, say things that could be damaging to the athlete, may cause them to be somewhat withdrawn, not want to be a part of the process anymore, not wanting to be a part of the team anymore. So as a result, they don't really perform up to whatever the standard is. They don't want to be a part of that anymore. They don't want to be ridiculed. So as a result, they may not display the type of performance that one would expect. So as a result, we as coaches have to be very aware, keenly aware of that. The other thing I want to make a reference to is that, of course, when we talk about motivation, again, this segment is so rich in information. We'll break this up in several segments because I think this is a very important topic, one that is oftentimes overlooked. So we'll have more conversation and discussion about motivation, obviously. But the key mistake, you need to be aware of that as a parent, as a coach, in terms of misperceiving motivation, because that could be very damaging to the athlete, especially if you have a young athlete. That could be very damaging to their self-worth, their self-esteem. So we need to be very careful about that. The other thing I wanted to mention very briefly is that, we have to be very aware of the environment that we're exposing ourselves to, or exposing the athletes to. If that environment is conducive enough to being successful, is it conducive enough to learning? Some coaches like to yell and scream to get their point across. I don't think that don't really serve our purpose. In fact, the research does not align with that at all in terms of, really helping an athlete become more successful. So you definitely want to, limit that as discriminating and yelling as much as possible, but provide a environment that's very conducive to learning. Again, this information is so rich in material. I can go on and on about kind of, all the different facets of motivation. And so definitely you want to tune in because we'll dive deeper into it as we talk about other aspects of motivation that I didn't have a chance to cover in this particular episode. Again, certainly my pleasure. If you have different questions, concerns, feel free to get in contact with me. I'll be more than happy to have dialogue with you. Until next time, take care and have a good one.